how long do you give your great idea with air quotes until you cut bait? You know, how do you know when it's not working? You should give up.
I think the easiest way to answer that is it has to come from the gut. The only times I've ever really screwed up in my life is when I haven't listened to my gut. When I listen to my gut, everything really seems to go well. It's when I don't do that, and I figure out, and I ignore the baseline in my system that's saying do this or don't do that. When I don't do that, when I ignore that, I wind up screwing up. You know, we're given instincts for a reason. Don't walk down that dark street. You know, I've done actually some research on this. It's fascinating what happens when your body senses danger, just in terms of a chemical reaction. It pulls more blood in the legs so you can run faster. It increases the diameter of your pupils so you can see better in the dark. If the body has been trained for millions of years to do all this shit, who the hell am I to ignore that when my gut says don't do something?
Yeah.
That's pretty damn ballsy for me to say, you know, no, I think I'll ignore millions of years of evolution and walk down that dark street. You know, I deserve to get knifed.
Yeah. But what do you say when some of that is in our head? Like, we are putting the blocks there, right?
You have at the end of the day, only you know if it's time. And, you know, you go into a vacuum chamber and say, okay, ignoring the haters, ignoring what's in my brain, should I continue this? And if you have the belief that you should, by all means, scratch, bite, steal, do everything you can to make it work.
What's the most difficult thing you've ever done?
Huh. Good question. I'm debating how honest I want to be. I did a couple of things, like 2 or 3 things. First one, I left a relationship that I was truly in love with the person, but we were wrong, and it was never going to get better. And that was about 5 years ago or so, and I knew it was never going to get better, and I knew that you can change yourself to suit other people, but then you're not really yourself anymore. And I knew that I needed to be who I was, so that was difficult. My first Ironman was brutally hard. There were 30-mile-an-hour headwinds on the bike, and I just kept biking and biking, and it just felt like it was never going to end. And it was. I remember I was crying on the bike at like mile 80. I'm like, this is never going to end. What else? You know, it's funny. I don't look at things as difficult. I mean, a CrossFit class is difficult, you know, but I like to look at the bright side. It's like, hey, I finished it. You know, I'm not dead.
Yeah, well, so what is that X factor? What is that secret sauce? Like, what's the difference between success and failure? And why aren't more people, you know, you've had tremendous success.
I've also had a lot of failure, but I have a good friend of mine, former Navy SEAL, a guy named Jack Walston. Jack lives in Texas, friends with his whole family, and he's given me the best advice. He gave me the best advice in my life that I think I ever got. I've had like several pieces of advice. I've been fortunate to have a ton of mentors. Lou Lamorello from the New Jersey Devils, Brandon Steiner from Steiner Sports, all just brilliant guys, and they've given me phenomenal advice. And Jack Walston said something to me. He goes physiologically, when your body is saying you have to give up because you have nothing left, you actually still have about 50% left. And he told me these stories of, you know, in Desert Shield and all these things. And, you know, I'm sitting here because I don't want to do another 5 dead arm hangs or whatever in my CrossFit class. And, you know, he didn't have a choice as to whether or not he had to walk across 100 miles of sand or whatever the hell. And I just imagine, you know, you can get it done now or not do it and be miserable that you didn't do it. You know, I think that applies to basically everything I've ever done. And look, the ADD in me very much doesn't want to do things, you know, because they're boring and they're not exciting, and that's what ADD is. You know, you're constantly looking around for something to excite you to bring your dopamine levels back up to a normal person's level. So for me, I find things that compensate for that. So that's why I'm a skydiver. That's why I run. That's why I do public speaking. That's why I go on TV. Anything that raises those dopamine and serotonin levels to make me essentially a normal person, whatever, allows me to do those things that would otherwise bore me.